2 minutes siding to the merge. Bishop Ford, 21 minutes. That's traffic. I'm Jim Talamonte on AM 560 The Answer.
More Chicago's Morning Answer comes your way next. Now your official Chicagoland weather forecast. Here's meteorologist Steve Williams.
Clouds give way to some sun. Breezy this morning. The high today 41. It'll be clear tonight. Low 27. Sunny for most of the day tomorrow. The high 53. Sunshine breezy on Sunday. The high at 65. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560 The Answer.
Your next news update is at 7:30. Continuous coverage of news, traffic, and weather at 560theanswer.com. Chicago's Morning Answer continues on AM 560 The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
On Thursday, what he said on Wednesday at a pro-abortion rally against the Supreme Court, the conservative justices on the Supreme Court, what they may do on the Louisiana heartbeat legislation that's before the court.
And they're taking away fundamental rights. I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions.
Now, when he says Gorsuch and Kavanaugh specifically will pay a price and they won't know what hit them specifically, what I hear is if they decide to uphold the Louisiana heartbeat bill, then there may be some Republicans that could possibly suffer electoral consequences in November, including the president. That's what I hear.
Okay. Well, what I hear, this guy, he says it like it is because he's from Brooklyn.
Now, I should not have used the words I used yesterday. They didn't come out the way I intended to. My point was that there would be political consequences for President Trump and Senate Republicans if the Supreme Court, with the newly confirmed justices, stripped away a woman's right to choose. Of course, I didn't intend to suggest anything other than political and public opinion consequences for the Supreme Court, and it is a gross distortion to imply otherwise. I'm from Brooklyn. We speak in strong language. I shouldn't have used the words I did, but in no way was I making a threat.
Well, again, that's good enough for me, but we better check with David Harsanyi, senior writer for National Review, also author of First Freedom, A Ride Through America's Enduring History with the Gun from the Revolution to Today, just to make sure that we're hearing Chucky Corleone correctly. David, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Is that what you heard too? A pedestrian statement saying there may be electoral consequences related to the abortion issue pending this case?
Exactly. I mean, I heard him say you and then mention two specific names, which doesn't seem to me to be some vague threat to the Republican Party about electoral consequences. Now, listen, I don't think he meant, we're going to, I don't think he meant it was as a violent threat, but he certainly meant it specifically about those people, called them out, in a sense trying to manipulate the court. But I think even more than that, I think Democrats want to delegitimize the court. They want to delegitimize certain members of the court. I think the Kavanaugh hearings prove that, and this is just, as you remember, there were like mobs outside the door banging to get in, things like that. And they're politicizing it, and this is just part of a concerted effort to do that.
Is this the first time a sitting senator has threatened an independent judiciary?
Yeah. I mean, with a threat. I mean, I tried to find another instance of it, and obviously I just went back, post-war, and I couldn't really find one. I mean, I heard that Senator Whitehouse had sent some affidavit with some kind of specific threat, but I think that this is much more important because it was made in front of a cheering crowd in front of the Supreme Court. It's not just poor form. It's really despicable.
Yeah, although you have to remember that Chuck Schumer, even though he's a plain-spoken Brooklyner, he's sort of an abstract rhetorician. He's the rhetorical version of like a Salvador Dali. He speaks in surreal terms, so there's a lot of interpretations depending on the angle in which you hear it. That's what we're led to believe. But to your point about Sheldon Whitehouse and this not being the only instance of the Democrats trying to delegitimize for political purposes the court, Sheldon Whitehouse, this was an amicus brief that was filed by Whitehouse and some other Dem senators, including our very own Dick Durbin, against gun rights in a gun rights case before the court. The Supreme Court is not well. Perhaps the court can heal itself before the public demands it be restructured in order to reduce the influence of politics. Hey, you side with us, otherwise we're going to pack the court. And that's the way they want to protect the independence of the judiciary.
It's just crazy. We know why this is happening. There are justices now who will tend to uphold the Constitution as written, and that's a big problem for the progressive agenda. It's that simple. The idea, first of all, the only constitutional right that gets them really worked up really is abortion rights, which is, highly debatable right. And they will go to the mat for it. They get very, very excited about it, but it's the only thing they talk about. The Kavanaugh hearings were about that. Even the Gorsuch hearings were about that. And it's laughable to think that they care that the Constitution be upheld in any other way. And they're going to destroy this court, and that's going to be they really have no other choice if they're going to keep moving to the left and keep moving forward with that sort of agenda, because these justices probably will strike down many of the things they want to do. Well,
and to your point, we already saw a preview of how this will play out in part in the presidential election if Biden is the Democrat Party's nominee, with Ayanna Pressley saying, hey, to one of these rallies outside the court that Schumer spoke at, I still believe in Anita Hill. We have two alleged sexual predators on the court, Kavanaugh and Clarence Thomas. So we're going to relitigate the Thomas hearings from 1991 in this 2020 presidential election. You can be sure of that.
Yeah. Can I just say this about Anita Hill? People tiptoe around this. I just was reading something just on this topic in the New York Times. She is not a credible person. She's not a credible accuser. There has never been a shred of evidence that anything she's ever said was about Justice Thomas was true. In fact, the FBI found that she wasn't consistent.
Right.
She didn't want witnesses. She is not a credible accuser, and we, I know people are a little, they don't want to be too harsh on a witness like that. And listen, we never know what happens behind closed doors, but the notion that Thomas is a sexual predator, it's a despicable thing to say. And there's not a shred of evidence, obviously, that proves that.
Ben, I wonder why she did it and who was behind her.
Well,
you don't just do that on your own. You have to be coached. And,
not necessarily, but how did it work out for her? Pretty damn well professionally, I'd say. And, there's this Clarence Thomas documentary out that we've spoken to the documentarian about. It's very good. It's sort of an illustration of his autobiography, My Grandfather's Son, which was very good, but it's useful. And if you remember, just to go back to Anita Hill, since, as I said, that I think this is going to come up again in 2020, all the contextual factors also cut against her. The fact that she followed him professionally from one agency to another after these alleged incidents were happening. That's curious. They kept in touch. Thomas recounts her picking him up from the airport one time after these alleged incidents has happened. In addition to the fact, and this goes to this larger point, that the undermining the rule of law has been a tool in the Democrats' toolbox for generations. That report, the FBI report that you mentioned, the interview of Anita Hill, that was never supposed to be made public. And in fact, the law was broken when it was leaked by somebody on that committee. Who knows? Was it Joe Biden and his staff? Who knows?
Right. And also, just quickly, a bunch of people came forward. I think 12 women who worked with both of them came forward to support Thomas, and not a single person came forward to support her. And there were other witnesses that had, not so nice things to say about her that weren't allowed to, that were cut off, basically. So, this idea that Thomas, and now they talk about Kavanaugh in the same way, and there's not a shred of evidence he's done anything either.
Right. So leveraging that for more discussion on the presidential Biden versus Bernie. Clearly, Bernie is a significant underdog now, just the way the delegate count is and how the map sets up. And it seems to me since we're doing postmortems on Bloomey and Warren, we can start with doing one on Bernie, perhaps, that he let his hammer and sickle show. And the beginning of the movement away from Bernie and the blunting of his momentum was that 60 Minutes interview with Anderson Cooper, where he extolled the virtues of Castro's literacy program in communist Cuba. And I know you wrote about that. And that's just, they came to Bernie, the Democrat primary voters came to Bernie for the free goodies. They're fine to embrace socialism by another name, but they can't stay around for the gulags, and that was the problem.
Well, I hope so. Sometimes, my theory is, though, that the socialism actually didn't really bother people very much, but the idea that he was not electable bothered them. In the end, they want to win, and when you look at some of the polling, when you ask people what the most important thing in a candidate is, it's electability. So I do wonder, and I hope you're right about that, and I hope that there was a rejection of socialism among Democrats, but I think it also has to do a lot with that this guy's just not going to be electable. He is still defending Castro, and that matters here. It's not like the Soviet Union, and Florida, there are still people who, descended of, and Cubans themselves who have escaped who will not take kindly to that. And I think Biden killed it in Florida. So,
he's doing well. He's up 49 plus points. But who do you think will be his running mate? Who would be a competitive choice for Trump and Pence?
I have to say, I think his running mate's going to be super important, and everyone, the more we see of him and the more people see of him, they're going to see that, he's up there, and imagining him 8 years out is going to be pretty tough. So I'm not sure who it's going to be. I imagine probably a woman, maybe Klobuchar. I don't know, but that might be a pretty good.
What about Kamala Harris? What happened to her?
I think the theory of Kamala Harris is better than Kamala Harris in action. So I think Klobuchar seems to me to be pretty, I don't like the things she says, but she seems competent and somewhat normal.
Yeah.
Whereas
Midwesternized. Yeah, Midwesternized. No, I think that's an important thing, and this is a problem for Kamala, is that she's sort of a nasty person. She's just not particularly likable. And one of the things that may get Joe Biden and this ticket into a competitive position is just sort of despite the fact that as your colleague Kevin Williamson wrote, he is a scoundrel, and that was a very good piece. But this likability thing, and this is what the media is going to amplify. In lieu of competence, they're going to talk about how likable Joe is, Scranton Joe, and likable, and unobtrusive, even though except when he's groping you, and so on and so forth. And so that likability thing is going to be important. And the other piece of it is, because he has sort of inherited the Obama legacy, I think it makes it less likely that he needs to pick a black candidate as his running mate. I think he could go.
Already has the black vote.
Yeah, I think he can go with something like you suggest, like a Klobuchar or some other sort of milquetoast socialist in one of the caucuses. He doesn't need to go with a black candidate.
Right. I think Joe Biden's very popular in the African American community, so he doesn't have to worry about that. But I also think that he's a terrible politician. He is in action. These are the first states and first delegates he's ever won. It's the third time he's running, and he's running against a 78-year-old socialist, praising the Soviet Union. We shouldn't be that impressed by this. But I do think that he can win. Don't get me wrong, but he's a ridiculous person sometimes, and I think when you see that up close, it's going to be pretty evident now, especially where he seems to be slowing down. And he is a scoundrel. His history is terrible. And you just said that he inherits the Obama legacy, which is true. But I'm not sure people realize that he's basically rejected a ton of stuff. He's moved left. I don't know if he's going to moderate himself, in the general, but I was trying to figure out what positions he has, and I can't even do it. It's just all over the place, and he's just incoherent.
He doesn't know what he's going to do in the general either, so you're not the only one, David.
It's going to be a surprise.
David Harsanyi, senior writer for National Review, author of First Freedom, A Ride Through America's Enduring History with the Gun, From the Revolution to Today. David, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. It's a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Robert Anderson, president of McLaughlin Body Company in the Quad Cities, and a customer of Signature Bank. When our 100-year-old family-owned manufacturing company was looking for a new bank, we found an excellent partner with Signature Bank. Signature Bank understands the challenges with manufacturing in today's highly competitive environment. We recently participated in the New Markets Tax Credit Program and were fortunate to have the experts at Signature Bank help us navigate the complexities of this program. With Signature Bank's support, we were able to expand not only our facility, but ultimately our business. If you're looking for a trusted banking partner for your business, look to Chicago's own Signature Bank.
Signature Bank is looking for their next success story. To learn more about turning your business vision